Welcome to today's open forum, August 9th, 2023. Very exciting stuff going on with you guys. You guys are doing a lot of business. I love it. The market is tough out there, but you guys are handling it, and that is wonderful. About once a year, I go over this buyer brokerage agreement, and the funny part is that this week I've had 6 questions about this. 3 people asking me what to do. What do you use for a lease, kind of a lease buyer brokerage agreement, a tenant brokerage agreement, and the other 3 of you wondering what to do. One of you on the other side about a buyer brokerage agreement, and 2 of you on the side wishing that you had one. And so I want to go over the buyer brokerage agreement, what it means, how it works, and how many of you guys are a little scared of putting a buyer brokerage agreement in front of your clients, if you're being honest. Okay, thank you, Malvis. And I know, and those of you shaking your head, no, I know, I believe you too. And I believe that Malvis does, and it's just about being it's just, look, if they won't sign a buyer brokerage agreement, then they're not committed to doing business with you, and that is how you waste your time. The most valuable resources, and I go over this all the time with you guys, the most valuable resources you guys have is your time and your gas, right? Your time and your money, your gas, etc. And those things are going to be wasted, guys. It happened to 2 of you this week on, these buyers. You show them 15 homes, and then they call you and say, "Oh gosh, Mandy, thanks for all your time. Sorry I wasted your time, but we found something on our own." Which all that means is they stumbled into Angie's open house, and Angie said, "Hey, you're working with somebody." And they say, "Oh, well, first of all, buyers are liars," which is, so are sellers too, but buyers are liars. And they'll say, "Well, we saw some houses with this one lady, and Angie's going to say, 'Well, did you sign something with her?' And they're going to say, 'Oh, I don't think, honey, did we sign? No, we didn't sign anything.' And Angie's going to say, 'Well, let's write up a contract. Let's see what we can do.' Or, I've got another listing around the corner, and there's 2 other ones for sale over there. And, one of my buyer's assistants can take you and show you a house or whatever, right? So you're going to get your client stolen if you don't have something in writing. But if Angie says, 'Do you have something right?' I say, 'Yeah, we signed some kind of thing that says we'll work with her.' Then Angie's going to say, 'Well, get her over here then,' right? Or have her write a contract on it. Have her call me if you guys are interested in this house." So the buyer brokerage agreement protects you. It is unethical to work with someone if they tell you they signed a buyer brokerage agreement with somebody else. And but there are ways to do this. If you are not the strongest salesperson in the world and you feel like, "Oh, I just hate to put something in front of them that they have to sign. I've just met them. We haven't built rapport yet. I just don't feel comfortable putting something in front of them to sign." This is a matter of salesmanship and a matter of education. Okay, so we need to educate people. We talked about this a week or 2 in this class with one of our guests, and we talk about a lot of our job is education. And I'm going to go over the buyer's brokerage agreement with you. I'm going to show you how to use it first of all. And this is the answer to the other question about I want to represent a tenant, but how do I know I'm going to get paid? I don't want to do it for $50 that somebody's offering on the MLS, etc. This is the form to use. The exclusive buyer brokerage agreement is also for tenants. So there's a place on there to use it for that. So let's go over this. First of all, when I share my screen here with you, we're going to talk about the actual form to use. Use a transaction broker. Use the one exclusive buyer brokerage agreement as a transaction broker. And the reason is, how many of you guys have run into other FRI agents on deals that not just happen to buy somebody else's or happen to sell to another FRI agent's customer? And have you guys done that? I know you guys have. You've done deals with other agents that you didn't premeditate it. It just, you had a buyer and another FRI agent had the seller. We have 550 realtors. You're going to run into other FRI agents with your buyers or your sellers. Okay, so do use the transaction brokerage form, because even though you're not representing both sides, that is from a broker. Remember, that's from a broker standpoint. And I do the same thing for your listings. Please use the transaction broker form. exclusive right of sale is transaction broker, because you're going to get offers from other FRI agents, and you don't want to have to explain to them we're transitioning to a transaction broker. All that fiduciary information you gave me, I have to pretend I don't know now. When you told me that you're going through a divorce and you're desperate to sell this thing in the next 3 weeks, I can't disclose that still, but I am not a fiduciary to you anymore in this deal because it's a brokerage. You guys understand that? Everybody understands the law of agency on that. So if Jerry does a deal with Ida, FRI is the transaction broker, and both of you guys are acting as transaction brokers, even though you don't know the other party, you don't have anything to do with them. Okay. So please use the transaction broker form. We've got trouble on that a couple of months ago too. So please use those as much as you possibly can. Let's look at this. I'm gonna do a screen share here. Do you guys have any questions before we get started? Any areas you want me to hit on the form? Any questions you have about the form itself before we get started? No? Okay. Okay, now I can't, yes.
The buyer broker, okay, I didn't, yeah.
Exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. I'm going to go to the bottom and see what the actual numbers on it are. It says as a transaction broker, okay, it's EBBA 6TB. That's the transaction broker part. It's the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement version 6 TB, transaction broker. Okay, it hasn't been updated since 2016. All right. I can't see you guys. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's go over it. The parties, obviously the buyers, the broker is us. You can use your name here. It says real estate broker, but you can put, Vivian Katz, Florida Realty Investments. Okay. The term, I would use 6 months. Just, look, guys, anything that you're not comfortable with on here, just say that's what our brokerage does. 6 months. That's what my broker says. Okay. I talk to you guys about this all the time. Make the broker the bad guy. Type of property. Okay. So this part, as you go through this, the first thing you want to educate people on is that, look, I'm a member of the local board of realtors, the National Association of Realtors, the Florida Association of Realtors, and the MLS. There is no agent that can show you anything I can't do. There's no agent that can do anything for you that I can't do. Right? So there's no harm in working, you don't say these words, but there's no harm in them working only with you, right? What can another agent do for them that you can't do? They're maybe an agent's better at this or that, but there's no other agent that can do anything technically for them that you can't do. You can see all the properties that other agents can see. You can do everything, right? As long as they're looking in the area where your MLS is, which I'm sure they are, then there's nothing anyone else can do for them that you can't. So the type of property, this is where you show them that you've been listening to them, okay? They're looking for a single family residential property. They're looking for a townhouse. They're looking for a condo, whatever they're looking for. Location, all the locations you've discussed with them, either zip codes or city names or whatever you want to use here. Look, you guys said that you wanted to buy in the 400 to 450 price range. Okay, you've been pre-qualified for 465 or pre-approved, right? Buyer's been pre-approved for whatever it is that they've been pre-approved for. Preferred terms and conditions. Now, this is where you tell them also amount and terms, you want to put 10% down. That's what you're pre-approved for, whatever it was. Preferred terms and conditions. This is where you show them you've been listening to them. This is where we're going to put, you guys said you wanted great schools. You wanted A schools. You wanted a big backyard. You wanted proximity to this or that, right? You wanted to be close within 30 minutes of Susan's work at the hospital, whatever it is that they were talking about. But you showed that you've been listening to them. This is what we're going to help you buy. Does that sound good? Anything else you want to add to that? Even though these are preferred terms and conditions, and they're probably not going to get everything they want if they say they want to be in all those things and they're pre-approved for 275 and they want 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, that's probably not going to work, right? But if they just make sure you put the terms and conditions, show them that you've been listening to them. Brokers obligation. Yes, ma'am.
That changes from buyer to buyer. So if you put it on this form, are you being held accountable to those terms and conditions if they change their mind from a short-term rental to a, uh, you know, full-time, or like, I don't know. I never
This,
put that on there.
this just says preferred terms and conditions. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Okay. And
Okay.
just like the price range doesn't. How many times have you shown somebody and they said, oh, we can go up to 400, and then they see stuff, they look at $400,000 houses, they're like, oh, maybe we'll go up to 450.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All the
So, I
time.
mean, people give you a price range all the time. They say 350 to 400. Then you show them the 4 bedrooms that are in a certain area that are 350 to 400, and they're like, ooh,
Okay.
gosh, we have to put money into all. They're all dated. They're all this. They're all that. Let's just go ahead and get, you know, maybe something a little bit more expensive, right? They'll start sending you. How many times have you put somebody on a search and they start sending you other things that aren't anywhere near that, the other side of town, or a completely different price range, because they don't know a lot of times the first day you meet with them what they're looking for exactly. They have something in mind, and then you start showing them reality, and they change their mind completely. I mean, that happens all the time, right? So yeah, preferred terms and conditions, that's just showing them that you're listening to them. They want this, they want that. The terms, they really like to move in by, before school starts, whatever it is, just show them that you're listening to them, guys. This is a sales tool. It's also a protection. The main purpose is to protect you, but it's a sales tool as well. Broker obligations, you're going to use your professional knowledge and skills. Give them examples as you're going through this. Assist buyer in determining buyer's financial capability and financing options. You guys have done that with the lender, but if we see something else that we might want to try, then we can talk to them about that as well. Because at this point, pretty much they've only been pre-approved. Discuss property requirements, assist buyer in locating and viewing suitable properties, like we're going to do today. I mean, guys, you can do this. You can meet them at Panera Bread in the morning or at one of our offices in the morning and go through this before you go look at properties. So yeah, we'll go look at properties, but we're going to do this first. Sorry, broker says we have to do this first. Just like, I mean, guys, it's a requirement, just like it's a requirement. Like you guys have listings that you say people have to be pre-approved before they go see them, right? It's the same thing. Assist buyer to contract for property, except you blame that on the sellers. Don't you guys blame that on the sellers? Blame this on your broker. Assist buyer to contract for property, monitor deadlines, and close any resulting transaction, of course. Cooperate with real estate licensees working with the seller, if any, to affect a transaction. Buyer understands that even if broker is compensated by a seller, real estate licensee who is working with seller, such compensation does not compromise broker's duty to buyer. Okay, so you still owe them those duties, even if someone else is paying you. That's the point of this. Is do you like we kind of talked about a little bit last week when Angie brought that thing up. You're working for the buyer and the seller pays you. Is there some kind of conflict there? This points out that does not compromise our duties. You guys have had this recently. Buyer understands that broker may work with other prospective buyers who want to acquire the same property as the buyer. If the broker submits offers by competing buyer, broker will notify buyer that a competing offer has been made, but will not disclose any of the other offer's material, terms, or conditions. Buyer agrees that broker may make competing buyers aware of the existence of any offer buyer makes, so long as the broker does not reveal any material, terms, or condition of the offer without buyer's prior written consent, which they're not going to do. But you're just letting them know that you do have the right to let other people know that they're making an offer, which you do anyway, even without this. Fair housing, obviously, they adhere to principles expressed of fair housing, will not participate in any act that unlawfully discriminates. If they have a problem with that, then just walk away. Service providers. Broker does not warrant or guarantee products or services made by any third party. When broker at buyer's request refers or recommends to buyer in connection with the property acquisition. If they have a problem with anyone that you send to them, it's a third party problem. It's their problem with the third party. We do not warrant or guarantee their products. Buyer's obligation. Conducting all negotiations and efforts to locate suitable property only through broker, meaning they're not going to go work with someone else, right? They're not going to go to Angie's open house and work with her after they've signed this. And referring to broker all inquiries of any kind from real estate licensees, property owners, or any other source. If buyer contacts and is contacted by a seller or real estate licensee who is working with the seller or views a property unaccompanied by broker, which happens all the time, buyer will, as you guys know, if you work in open house, people come in all the time and say, oh yeah, my agent there at church this morning and they couldn't come or whatever, right? Unaccompanied by broker, buyer will at first opportunity advise the seller or real estate licensee that buyer is working with and represented exclusively by broker. This is where it's their responsibility to let Angie know at her open house that they have signed this document. Providing broker with accurate personal and financial information requested by broker in connection with ensuring buyer's ability to acquire property. Buyer authorizes broker to run a credit check to verify buyer's credit information. But we're not going to do that, but they're authorizing you to. Guys, this is the most important part is we're not taking their personal and financial information unless they're a tenant or whatever. Even then we're letting the landlord do it. But the important part that you need to get, I think it's in here, cooperating. They need to understand when they go under contract, they have to cooperate with the request from the lender. I can't tell you guys how many of you guys have lost deposits for your buyer has lost their own deposits because of their own lack of corresponding with the lender. But if you're not corresponding with the lender when they ask for something, I mean, I know people are at work and stuff and they'll ask for something at 10 o'clock in the morning and somebody's at their job and can't get it to them until later that day, but or the next day. But that's not a problem. It's when they don't respond for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. How serious are they about buying this house if they're not responding to things? So you need to one of the objects of this form is to make sure that they're serious about buying, right? You don't want to. That's how you guys have had people back out just because I don't know, we're just we're not sure right now is the right time to buy after they're under contract or after they've looked at 15 houses. Okay. Not asking or expecting, restrict the acquisition of property, of course, that's fair housing. Consulting an appropriate professional for legal, tax, environmental, engineering, foreign reporting requirements, and other specialized advice. Yeah, so we talk about this a lot when you're finding somebody land or whatever. That's the environmental and engineering part. There's all kinds of foreign reporting requirements, all that kind of stuff. They need to talk to professionals on it and not. This is taking some of the burden off you as an individual and us as a brokerage. Okay, retainer. If you guys want to take a retainer, you can. Okay, they haven't sent it to the brokerage. We're just going to hold it. Upon final execution of this agreement, buyer will pay the broker a non-refundable retainer fee of X amount. Actually, we can release these to you once they sign. For broker services, this fee is not refundable and will or will not be credited to buyer if compensation is earned by broker as specified in this agreement. You should do will. That's what a retainer typically would be. But on a lease, you guys are worried about driving these people all over town and looking at a bunch of rental properties for $50, or they always love the one that's only $50 instead of the one that's $400. But this fee is not refundable. In that case, will not be credited. But if it will, so a lot of you guys are charging $500 to go look at whatever it is. So if you're doing the $500, then you could do will, because down here under lease, you're going to put $500. Do you guys see where my cursor is? You're going to put $500 down here. So let's go on to that compensation. Here's where you would put 3%. You're typically not going to do for a purchase. You're not going to do a set dollar amount. You're going to do 3%. A lease, you're going to do $500 or whatever it is that you want for showing these people around. I think $500 is a reasonable amount depending on what they're renting. But if they're renting something that's going to be $5,000 a month, then maybe that's $1,000. Whatever it is that you want, whatever you can work out with them. We have no requirement on that. Whatever it is you want to work out. I've been here 9 years and you guys haven't done any options, so I'm not going to talk about that. Protection period. Typically you put 60 or 90 days here. If you showed them a property and they go to do it without after this has expired or been canceled, they certainly can't cancel you and go do it. But if they do it within 90 days of that, I would put 90 there. And if they ask any questions, this is only about properties which we showed to you, or you looked at while we were under this agreement. They can go find something new with somebody else after that, or on their own after that. But as soon as this terminates, they can go find something on their own. If it's something you've shown them, then they have to wait 90 days. They're not going to do that. Again, you're going to explain to them, you're not paying me anyway.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Ryan, that says any property that was called to the buyer's attention by the broker. Couldn't that also include any properties we emailed them?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are brought to their attention by the auto email. Yep. Even if you didn't discuss it.
Can you repeat that you said if they find their own property?
No, I say if they find something on their own, meaning if they stumble into an open house or see something on Zillow and call the listing director, the listing agent directly. That's what I mean by finding it on their own. And that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek expression, finding it on their own. That's the thing they always say. Oh, I'm so sorry I wasted your time. We really, we were really excited about some of those houses you showed us, but we found something on our own this weekend. That's the phone call you get when they break your heart. We're so sorry about wasting your time. So to Angie's point, yes, you could also send them the entire MLS on their last day with you. Send them the entire MLS and say, oh, well, if you buy any of those within 90 days, theoretically you could do that, but I'm not advocating that. You might technically be right, but good luck fighting that if they want to fight it. Early termination. Buyer may terminate this agreement at any time by written notice to broker, but will remain responsible for paying broker's compensation if, from the early termination date to the termination date plus protection period, if applicable, buyer contracts to acquire any property which, prior to the early termination date, was found by buyer or called to buyer's attention by broker or any other person. What this is saying is that if you find them something, they can't just fire you the next day and go buy it. Okay. If you send them something, they can't just fire you. You've got the entire 6 months plus the 90 days that they can't touch any of those properties that you sent them. Okay. Broker may terminate this agreement at any time by written notice to buyer, in which event buyer will be released from all further obligations under this agreement. You guys have all fired buyers before. If you've been around for a little bit, you've all fired buyers before. And this is, you just let them know at any time, but written notice to buyer, that can just be an email that says, you guys are, I think it's best if we both go our separate ways. Any unresolved dispute between buyer and broker will be mediated. Brokerage relationship. Broker will act as a transaction broker. Broker will deal honestly and fairly, will account for all funds, will use skill, care, and diligence in the transaction, will disclose all known facts that materially affect the value of the residential property, which are not readily observable to buyer. You guys know what that means because you guys ask me questions like this all the time. Do we need to disclose if the roof is falling down? Do we need to obviously falling down? Do we need to disclose that? I mean, you're going to talk about it anyway, but you don't have to disclose that. But you disclose things that you observe or that were told to you by the listing agent that are not readily observed. Like, the hot water heater doesn't work great or whatever it is. You got to let them know. Will present all offers and counter offers in a timely manner unless directed otherwise in writing, and will have limited confidentiality with buyer unless waived in writing. Special clauses, that can be, this is where you can put, it says 3% up there, but if we only get 2% on the MLS or 2.5% on the MLS, then I'll accept that. You can put that kind of stuff here, or you cannot. And that's it. Do you guys have any questions on that?
This might be a dumb question, me being new. How would you know if they went with someone else or bought with someone else?
Oh, well, you're going to be in contact with your buyer, and they'll typically let you know.
Oh, okay.
They're going to tell you quit. At some point, they're going to quit. They're going to say, quit sending me stuff. I've already got a contract, but you're going to be, this is a buyer that you're working with. So you're going to keep sending them stuff. Hey, what'd you guys think about the ones I sent you on Thursday? Or I just sent you guys a few more. What do you think? And they're going to eventually say, oh gosh, well, this past Sunday, we went and looked at Angie's open house and, we put a contract in and it looks like they accepted it. We're really excited. I'm so sorry for wasting your time, Summer. You've been great. Your personality is so great. And we just really loved you. And thank you for all the work you put in. You're not getting any money or anything, but, see if your mortgage company will take we'll write them a letter of thanks and see if they take that instead of your mortgage. So
okay, thank you, Ryan. I'm so happy you found a house with Angie. She's awesome. I've worked with her before.
Oh yeah.
I do want to remind you though, we signed a brokerage agreement when you first came on about 90 days ago. And, So you, agreed to work with me. I mean, that's kind of the conversation that you're having.
You need to contact Angie, and Angie's going to say, I don't know anything about that. If that's something, they didn't tell me anything about that. If that's something that you can send me, I'll talk to my broker about it.
Gotcha. Okay. Very
Okay.
cool. Thank you.
Thanks for making me the shark in all these scenarios. I would never steal leads from Summer or Mandy. Come on.
I know Angie would have, but Angie's fantastic. And
Maybe
if
the
you
rest
see
of you, but
Angie's
not Mandy.
presentations, that's why.
Well, and I'll tell you something else. It's not the Angies you have to worry about. It's the ones who this is their only deal they're going to get this year, and they're seeing it as the only way they're going to make money. And now they thought they had a $400,000 listing and they were going to make $10,000 or $12,000, and now they think they're going to make $20,000 or $25,000, $20,000 or $24,000, and so they are going to cling to that thing. They're going to fight you on it every step of the way. So just keep that in mind too. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. You've done a lot of work. And by the time you get done with the inspection, the appraisal, and negotiating, and the lender, and doing everything that you have to do to get this across the finish line, like some of you guys, especially nowadays, there's a fight on every deal. It seems like it's a lot of work, and you earn your commission. So it's a lot of money that you're potentially arguing over, and it's a lot of money. That's a very expensive phone call, that one that says, thank you, Summer, you were great. So just keep that in mind. Any I can't move that now.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have had it happen to me before, where I had a buyer agreement signed with a client. I was working with them consistently, thought we had really good rapport going and a really great relationship from what I saw. And then they went into, they called the listing agent from Zillow, even though they've heard me say not to. And they went and saw a property with them and put in an offer. And I found out right away, because I am communicating with my clients all the time and I was actively involved. So I called the listing agent. I said, hey, we have a buyer agreement signed. My client was just confused by calling you, thought you were just going to show it to them, feels like they're misled and they want to work with me, because that's what they said, that they wanted to work with me. So when I told the agent that, they said, fine, resend the offer with your name on it and I'll, get rid of that one. So he understood, the other agent. Luckily, it wasn't someone like you're talking about that would try to cling on to a deal and, make a big deal out of something and fight for something that they know in the long run they're not going to get. If the client wants to work with you, they're not going to be able to fight that. The client really felt kind of misled when they called the listing agent, and he's like, yeah, come on over and I'll sign it to you. And I think he understood that that's what he was doing. And that's the chance you take with a lot of clients that just call you up and right away want to go out and see a house and put in an offer. When they're so quick like that, I think a lot of times us agents that have done this for a while, we could see that as a red flag, like what's going on here. Like most people need a little bit more communication before being there. So obviously I already did all the communication with them and had them ready to go. And then he just kind of picked it up. So he completely let it go. And I was fortunate that it didn't turn into a fight. And that my clients still wanted to work with me, because they could have said, oh no, you didn't show it to us, he did, we want to work with him instead. And then it'd be really hard on my end to try to fight that. And in some scenarios it's worth it, and I guess some it's just not.
Yeah, so we've had both sides of this, and I've had you guys call me and say this. Let me tell you this: if someone feels misled by you, and certainly if you did anything to mislead them, you are going to lose an arbitration. I'll tell you who's going to win an arbitration from my experience of going with you guys to arbitration. The one that the client says they thought they were working with, the one they wanted to work with, going to win an arbitration every single time. And assuming it's reasonable. I mean, they can't go after it and say, oh, I wish I'd known Summer back then, I would have wanted to work with her. They can't do that. But that's who's going to win. And if you did mislead someone, you're going to not only lose your commission, you're also going to, well, you're going to lose half of the commission, but you're going to lose if you go to ethics. Let me get into chat here real quick.
I think someone has a question, Levette Archibald.
Yeah, I'll get to everybody. Hold on one second. Certainly agreements committee years. What happens with the buyer's agreement? The buyer sends a letter stating they felt the agent was not knowledgeable about the area. And another agent because they felt yeah, I mean they can do that. Now if they still have they have to cancel it at some point. Okay, let's go to Levette.
So, just so I understand you correctly, we can charge 3% of the purchase price, plus the seller can pay us another 3, make it 6%. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, it's either or. It's whatever the seller pays. You could put 3, and if you only get 2.5 from the seller, the buyer still technically owes you 0.5%. If I were ever going to want to work with this buyer again, I wouldn't probably be greedy about that, but you can. But no, it's instead of that's your total, no matter who it's paid by. Your total is the 3%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not additional. I mean, it could be. I mean, it could be not could be, but you could level it up to that. But typically, people don't do that. I've never had you guys do that with a client, and certainly not in this market. So, guys, part of the reason I want to do this because buyers are so important right now, as you guys know. It is with interest rates toward 8% now. Buyers are going to be like gold. I wouldn't say it's a buyer's market quite yet, but buyers are very, very important, and you don't want to lose them at this point. If you got somebody willing to buy at these rates, even though, we could talk about that all day about whether the rates are still pretty good or not. It is, people have been through 15 years of great rates, and now they're getting back to not as great, and buyers are like gold. What other questions you guys have on this? Certainly you guys are interested in some of you who do leases. This makes, as I can tell you the 24.5 years I've been in this business, I've had people tell me, oh, hey, I got something for you. It's a friend of mine and they want to rent something. And you're like, oh, they're like, oh, I got a referral for you. Oh, it's somebody who wants to rent something, and somebody who's not in real estate, they'll tell you that, like, oh, thank you so much. Can't wait to drive them all over town and make $75. This is going to be great. But you also want to service your clients, right? You also want to be the person they send people to, because they don't understand the difference between sending you a renter and sending you a buyer. They don't understand the difference between how much difference that means to you. So this is a way, guys, to make this worthwhile. To say, look, yeah, my fee's $500. My broker charges $500. At least it's worth doing that now and building a relationship with them. And maybe you sell them a house in a year when they get the credit right. At least talk to them and say, why aren't you buying? Oh, I got this thing on my credit and I got to get rid of it. And I'm almost done with it. And I have to rent another year, although I could probably buy in 6 months or whatever, right? That's something to stick in your pipeline. And a year from now, you'll be glad you did it. Yes, Ida, I got my license when I was 4 years old. Zoe, buyer brokerage agreement, where it talks about commission, I'd buyer ask me why is that in there if they aren't paying it. And the wording, it seems like it says that if any reason seller doesn't pay the commission, the buyer will be responsible for paying. Can you please explain? Well, that's exactly what it says. So there's nothing to explain. That's exactly what it says, Zoe. Let me find that on here. Oops, sorry, moving around so much. Buyer's compensation is earned when during the term of this agreement or any renewal or extension, buyer or any person acting on behalf of buyer. This covers you if, in case you sign it with the wife and then the husband buys the property under his name and says, oh, well, it wasn't the same. Any person acting for or on behalf of buyer contracts to acquire real property as specified in this agreement. Buyer will be responsible for paying broker the amount specified below plus any applicable taxes, but will be credited with any amount. This answers the question before, but will be credited, Levette's question, but will be credited with any amount which broker receives from a seller or a real estate licensee who is working with the seller. Yeah, they are on the hook for this. If, for example, if you find him a FSBO and the seller refuses to pay, Zoe, I think that's probably the best example for your question, is if you find him a FSBO and the seller refuses to pay commission. I'm not paying any commission. That's why I didn't list it with anybody. I'm not paying no damn commission, right? So your buyer's going to owe you, so they need to make their offer accordingly. I mean, you don't work for free, right? Or if your buyer falls in love with one of these $1 listings that we talked about last week on the MLS, seems like they always fall in love with the lowest, the people offering the lowest, which, you know, if somebody has a hot property, they're going to offer lower commission a lot of times. So that's what they absolutely owe it, but they're going to pay less for it. You're going to instruct them to pay less for it. You got to remind them, and it should not be the foremost thing in your mind how you're getting paid, but it should be a factor in your discussions with them, how you're getting paid. So yes, and that paragraph answers Levette's question as well.
There was also, Ryan, times when these builders weren't paying us any commission or very low commission too. So Zoe, that's another time that this would apply and help you out so that you could help them buy a house with a builder and still get paid.
Yes, great, thank you. When it's a seller's market again, builders are going to go down to 1% again with you guys. This will make that up for you. Also, I'm glad you brought up new builds. That is probably the number one. We found something on our own that there is. It's not necessarily, I'm gonna let Angie off the hook. It's not necessarily Angie's open house that they went to. A lot of times they just drove by a new place and stuck their head in, and some new home salesperson who was previously a timeshare salesperson got them to sign that day on the dotted line, right? And if you don't, and that's why they have these rules too. If you weren't registered with them, if you didn't register the client ahead of time on their website and all this stuff, then they don't have to pay you. Well, get one of these signed. And you can enforce this on the buyer side. They're still not going to, they're still going to refuse to pay you whatever, but the buyer will have to pay you, or they'll have to work something out with that seller. All right. Any other questions? Any hands up? No.
Hey, Angie, what does that conversation look like, or Brian? But you know, if a builder's not going to pay commission, I mean, when you're having your client sign this brokerage agreement, do you tell them if you're looking at a new build? I mean, that would deter me, right? So, what does that conversation typically look like, or do you call the builder afterwards?
I'll take this for a second.
Okay.
Builders are offering, part of the reason they sell them so quickly, as someone just put in the chat as well. Builders are desperate and they're offering them incentives that are crazy and free swimming pools and all that stuff. As we're getting back into that market where they're doing this. I don't know if you guys saw, who is it? Somebody's offering 5% and 6% now. Did anybody else see that? I just saw that. I don't remember which builder it was. I never remember, but somebody's offering 5% and 6% now to agents. Meaning they're desperate and they're giving away all kinds of stuff. So yeah, they're getting all kinds of incentives to go there and to buy that day. And it's always, you know, that it's almost like timeshare sometimes. It's like, you know, these run out that day. Daryl says Lennar. So yeah, they're doing that. They're getting a lot for doing that, but you've got to remind them. And the problem is you've already asked them up front, would you guys consider new homes? And they said no. And then they go by and they get one. Does that answer your question? There's no great way to bring this up other than to tell them that they, you know, remind them that they signed this.
Okay, just be upfront, like you said, just being honest.
And just stay on top of them and say, if you guys, you know, whatever you guys are considering, if you do go look at these, you just instruct them. If you do go look at these, have me go with you. I'll make it.
I have a question.
Yes, Ida.
Hey, hi, good morning, everyone. Question in regards to the state of the market, how desperate the new builders are. Has anybody have any experience with negotiating the price down, even though they are offering quite the incentive in some communities? Like, for example, I know D.R. Horton is offering the agents 3%, and then the second deal, they will offer the 3%, but a bonus of 1,000, and then increase on and on as you bring more buyers to them. So has anybody experienced also negotiating the price down, since they are obviously hurting and wanting to upload the or unload the supply that they have in their hands before the end of the year.
Have any of you guys negotiated them down?
I have. Hi, Ida. Hi, everyone. I sent to Adams Homes, and the representative actually got pretty offended because I sent the offer through the MLS as normal. You know, this, even though there are new builds, they also have it on the MLS. So I sent the offer normally, like it would be a regular sale, and it was for quite a like I don't know, it was like 15K or something like dramatic. And they ended up accepting it. The guy was pissed. He didn't want to talk to me, like the agent and everything, but we closed the deal. We still got all the incentives and it worked out.
Awesome.
What I'm asking about, like the big wigs, you know, they normally have their preferred lenders and everybody in home that they work with. And you do not complete the paperwork or the contract yourself. They have their sales agent to do that. That's what I'm like wanted to know about with the big wigs.
So what happened was that he received my offer and he ended up writing it on his format to present it to, you know, the correct way to the builder. But they still took my offer.
I never heard that we can write the offer to a new build. I have dealt with HR Horton before. What do you say about that, Angie or Ryan?
But
Thank you, Lizette.
I'm familiar with what she's talking about, and she's saying that it was on the MLS, like a lot of them are on the MLS, and so she wrote it through that. But the point is that it was negotiable, and she got a lot of the things that she wanted, including the reduced price and a couple of other things. So that's what she's saying. Yes, they are negotiable. You can negotiate for bigger incentives and bigger. Yeah, they're absolutely negotiable.
Yeah, I'm aware it's negotiable. I was just wondering if anybody have negotiated the price lately with the way the market is.
Well, that's what she's saying. She did. She's just don't be distracted by her sending the thing from the MLS. Don't be distracted by it. She sent an as is from the MLS because she saw it on the MLS and she thought that would be a good way to do that. And then they didn't like it. But in reality, she sent in less than asking price, and she sent in asking for this and this and this, and incentives and stuff that she knew about already. She had already talked to him, so she knew about that, and she sent in an offer for less. So you can don't be distracted by the offer she sent. You can go in and talk to them and get better things. That's what we do as agents. That's what you tell them. Send me to the. Don't forget to take me to the new builder, and I'll talk to them, and I'll get you better stuff, and I'll make sure that you're getting the lot you want, the quality you want, and the price that you want. So, or at least do better than you would do. So yes, you absolutely can do that. Either that you have value when it comes to going in and negotiating with new home builders.
All right. Thank you.
I think it's great that Lizette was able to do that to get a price lower, because in my experience, it seems like it's been easier with builders to get other incentives thrown in or closing costs or other credits, because they often don't want their appraised values to drop, right? So they sell a house to you for 50 grand less, and then now the appraiser comes out and it starts to lower the whole community. So I've had better luck with asking for extra incentives and closing costs or different things, rather than, a price reduction. But it's great. And it depends on the market too, right? Because once we start shifting more towards a buyer market, the buyers are going to have more control of any transaction, whether it's with a builder or a resale. So, pay attention to the market and follow that to see what they're getting. But if they recently raised the price, then you probably would have better luck of getting the price reduced. But if it's been all their sales are like this and they're just slowly climbing, then it's really hard to get them to change the actual sale price. But it's obviously can be done, and everything can be negotiated, and Liz has proved that. But I'm trying not to work with buyers, so don't ask me about buyers.
Hey, Ryan. I wanted to answer a question that Anno asked a little bit ago about we went over it up here, but the termination or protection period. You can make that protection period whatever you want, as long as the buyer agrees to it. You can make it whatever you want. It's right here, number 8. I know you had asked that. Sorry, I had to get back to that. That was in the chat.
Hey, Ryan.
How strong is your buyer? Jerry, I'll get right to you. Jerry said, how strong would it be if you put new builds. I think you should just stick with single family. Just put single family residential home. I think that covers everything with telling them that you're listening to them. But you could put existing or new build. If they've talked to you about it, both existing and new build, I would write that existing and new build. That covers absolutely every home in the world, right? So existing and new build. Condos, you ask for credits, monthly HOA fees and such, probably same. Okay. Yes, Clarence.
Yeah, so for those that are interested in learning more or how to deal with new builds or new construction, there's a few different classes that are available out there. And Brian, if you concur, I have a link that I can share for people that are interested in maybe getting educated. Okay, so I'll add that into the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone else just asked something. Yeah, and they were doing this even last year. One of you guys got a $15,000 bonus for selling, I don't know, 3 or 5 homes in the same community or something. I don't remember who it was, but somebody, and I wouldn't tell you if I did, but somebody got a $15,000 check. One of you guys did on top of your commission. So yeah, and that was in 2022. So they are doing it. I think he's going to put it in the chat. Are you going to put it in the chat, Clarence? There he goes. That'd be a great thing to attend. I may look at that myself. Any other questions on buyer brokerage agreement? Do you guys, let me turn this up here so I can see more of you. Will you guys use this buyer brokerage agreement? Yes, awesome. Please do. It protects you so much. Jerry's been to that class, says it's great. So that's awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Protects you so much. Please use it. If every time I do one of these, I get 1 or 2 people more to use it, that's great. I just wish you guys would. It keeps you out of trouble. It helps you. It helps cement the buyer. There's a psychological thing to it too. The buyer has committed to you and you have committed to the buyer. But when you're selling this, and I didn't really talk about when you're selling this to the buyer, and I say selling it to them because it's a way to build this connection with them and build loyalty with them. Let them know, talk more about the things that you're going to do for them. And you're committed to show them every house that fits their criteria. And you will adjust their criteria. All they have to do is let you know, and I'll adjust your criteria for you. Guys, we get paid $6, $8, $10, $12, $15, $20,000 every time they buy something. So work for it. You know, this are the things that I will do for you. Regular people work 6 months for that kind of money, 3 months for that kind of money, right? And they have to watch a clock all day. While you guys are out picking up your kids and running around doing whatever, they have to watch a clock all day. You guys get to make your own schedule. I know you work your butt off, but you get to make your own schedule. You get to go to your kids' games. You get to do this, do that. Take your kids to get their senior photos. You get to do all this stuff that a lot of working people don't get to do. And you make great money when you're good at it, right? And the way to get good at it is to give the service. But let people know. It doesn't do any good to give the service and not let anybody know, right? You guys be the best in the world, but if nobody knows it, you're only going to do 1 a year or 2 a year that fall into your lap. All right. So get out there and let people know how great you are, but be great first and then let people know how great you are. All right. Any other questions? Clarence, thanks for sharing that. We're going to check that out. You guys, please, if you have any kind of questions about new home builds or anything like that, please go to that class that Clarence put up there. You'll just learn, make yourself better at what you do. Learn your craft, make yourself better at what you do. All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming today. Any other questions before we go? All right. Bye, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Special guest next week. We're going to talk about AI and the actual plugins and all that stuff. It'll be really cool stuff. That's right. All right. Bye, everybody.